Deion Sanders issues clear warning after major coaching shift. Why Colorado's season hangs in the balance. When the clock ticked down on Colorado's narrow 21-24 loss to BYU, the camera caught Deion Sanders standing on the sidelines, his trademark sunglasses hiding his eyes but not his disappointment. It was his team's third defeat of the season and, more painfully, the second consecutive loss in conference play. The look on his face told the story. Frustration, determination, and a realization that something drastic needed to change. For a coach who has built his persona on charisma, confidence, and an almost magnetic optimism, Sanders was blunt in the aftermath. Sometimes when it seems like you had more talent, but you didn't quite win the game, it makes it feel somewhat awkward, he admitted. That awkwardness, he emphasized, would no longer be tolerated. The primetime era in Boulder might still be in its early chapters, but Coach Prime made one thing crystal clear after the BYU loss. Change is coming, and it won't be gentle. This wasn't just a post-game soundbite meant to rally headlines. It was a warning, a line in the sand for his players, especially those who had grown too comfortable in their starting spots. Sanders confirmed a major shift in coaching focus, one that would directly target the weakest areas of his team. He also issued an ultimatum. Either play with the hunger and aggression he demands, or prepare to watch the game from the bench while someone else takes the field. The painful context. A team struggling in the trenches. To understand the intensity of Deion Sanders' words, one has to look at the numbers behind Colorado's struggles. Coming into Week 5, BYU was favored by an eye-popping 49.5 points. Yet Colorado, to their credit, made the game competitive, at least defensively. The offensive line looked slightly improved compared to the early games of the season, helping keep quarterback Kaidon Salter on his feet long enough to move the ball. But football games are rarely won with slight improvements. On third down, the Buffaloes were abysmal, converting only 33% of their opportunities. Salter threw a costly interception, and while the offense showed flashes, the glaring issue remained on the defensive side of the ball. Colorado's defense has been porous all season, and against BYU it reached a breaking point. The Buffs allowed BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier to rush for a stunning 92 yards, averaging 6.5 yards per carry. The Cougars piled up 208 rushing yards in total, bullying Colorado's defensive front at will. One touchdown after another highlighted a simple truth. Colorado's defensive line lacked physicality, discipline, and most of all, aggression. By the time the dust settled, Colorado found itself ranked 125th nationally in rushing defense, sharing unwanted company with programs like South Alabama and Texas State. The offensive line didn't fare much better, sitting 107th in sacks allowed with 12 surrendered already this season. Coach Prime summed it up himself. With both the O-line and D-line performing at this level, the Buffs can go nowhere. A coach's breaking point: tempo, tempo, tempo. After the loss, Deion Sanders' new words weren't enough. His son, Deion Sanders Jr., posted a video on his well-off media account that gave fans an inside look at what was coming next. In the clip, Coach Prime addressed his team with raw honesty. Tempo, right? That's right there. Tempo, tempo, tempo. At halftime, at the beginning of the game, at halftime. That means we're not making the necessary adjustments. That means you guys ain't coming to play. That means we ain't showing up when it's time to show up. But once we get warmed up, we're okay. That's unacceptable. His words hit with the force of a hammer. Sanders' point was clear. It's not enough to find rhythm after the game is already underway. Champions show up from the very first whistle. To address the lack of intensity, Sanders revealed a new drill. It wasn't just about conditioning or schemes, it was psychological warfare. He wanted to hardwire urgency into his players' DNA. We're going to start practicing while we're breaking the practices in the quarter, so you'll understand what we're trying to accomplish, he announced. Then came the threat that underlined his frustration. If we don't get it today, I'm sending you inside. If this happens today, I'm sending you off the field, and the next guy's going to be up and the next guy's going to play. The message couldn't be misinterpreted. Sanders was done protecting reputations or coddling talent. Performance would decide who stays on the field and who doesn't. Reinventing the trenches. One of the most intriguing aspects of Sanders' shift is where he's choosing to direct his focus. Last season, much of the attention, both from coaches and fans, centered on Colorado's flashy offense and skill position players. The quarterbacks, wide receivers, and defensive backs received most of the spotlight. But after BYU, Sanders made it clear, the future of Colorado football lies in the trenches. Defensive line, offensive line, I'm looking at you today because you are where it all starts. You are where it all starts. Quarterbacks are looking at y'all today. Linebackers, I'm always looking at y'all, he said during practice. It's a significant statement because for years, Colorado's line play has been one of the program's weakest links. In 2023, the O-line gave up 43 sacks, ranking 126th in the country. This year, despite portal additions like Xavier Hill, Zarian McGill, Larry Johnson, and Xylem Chrysler, the improvement has been minimal. Even more concerning has been the regression of the defensive line. In 2023, Colorado ranked 16th nationally in sacks with 39, a surprising bright spot under Sanders' leadership. This year, however, the Buffs sit at 112th, managing only 6 sacks across multiple games. For a unit mentored by Hall of Famer Warren Sapp, this drop-off was shocking. To fix it, Sanders is demanding not only better execution, but better effort. He is upping the intensity of practices, pushing players until they break bad habits and embrace the level of physicality required to win in Power 5 football. The bench is no longer safe. One of the boldest declarations Sanders made this week came in his call for backups to prove themselves. You guys that usually don't get that playing time rarely get that look, go full speed. Give me a reason to put you in. Give me a reason to let you get down, he said. This is classic Coach Prime, simultaneously motivating his reserves while warning his starters. For Sanders, no name on the roster is bigger than the team's goals. That's why he's willing to bench underperforming players, even veterans, in favor of hungry backups who are willing to fight for every snap. It's a culture reset, one designed to remind every player, no matter how talented, that starting spots must be earned every single week. Why this matters beyond one game? To the casual observer, Colorado's loss to BYU might seem like just another bump in a rebuilding process. But to Deion Sanders, it represents something much deeper. College football is about more than talent acquisition. The transfer portal can deliver stars, but stars don't win games without grit, chemistry, and discipline. Sanders knows this. He built his Hall of Fame career not just on speed and skill, but on unmatched competitiveness. Now he's trying to inject that same mindset into a roster filled with new faces. The challenge? Instilling toughness in units that have struggled for years across multiple coaching regimes. This coaching adjustment also matters because of what's looming on the horizon. Colorado's next game is against TCU, a team with the firepower to expose every weakness the Buffs have in the trenches. If Sanders' changes don't yield immediate results, the season could spiral into disappointment. But if the new drills and cultural reset take hold, Colorado could surprise the college football world again, just as they did early in Sanders' tenure. The stakes for Coach Prime. For Deion Sanders, the stakes are higher than just salvaging a season. His entire coaching philosophy is under the microscope. Since arriving at Colorado, Sanders has been criticized by some for prioritizing flash over fundamentals, hype over substance. His critics say he focuses too much on skill players and too little on the unglamorous work in the trenches. By shifting his attention to the offensive and defensive lines, Sanders is not only addressing the team's weaknesses, he's also silencing doubters. And yet, he knows words won't be enough. Results will. Fans, boosters, and recruits are watching closely. A turnaround could solidify Sanders' reputation as a culture builder who can reshape entire programs. Continued struggles, however, would raise questions about whether his methods can succeed long-term in the unforgiving grind of the Power 5. Looking ahead, can Colorado turn the corner? Colorado's story is far from over. At 2-3, the Buffs are still in the thick of their season, with opportunities to right the ship and push for bowl eligibility. But every game now feels like a referendum on the changes Sanders has implemented. The TCU matchup will be the first true test of whether the renewed focus on the trenches pays off. Can the defensive line stop the run? Can the offensive line protect Salter long enough to keep the offense moving? Can backups rise to the occasion when given their shot? If the answer to those questions is yes, then the BYU loss may eventually be remembered as a turning point, a painful but necessary wake-up call. Final word, a warning echoing through Boulder. Deion Sanders' warning after the BYU loss was not empty talk. It was a declaration of war against complacency. Play with intensity or be benched. Fight in the trenches or be replaced. Embrace the culture he's building.